who helped Hamas in carrying out the recent terror attacks on Israel. A French senator on Wednesday asked the Prime Minister,
These killers didn't come out of nowhere. They were helped, trained, and financed. And we know who did it. We know by whom. By Qatar. Because the head of the killers is in Qatar. Mr. Ismail Haniyeh is in Qatar, the same country that finances Paris Saint-Germain Football Club and other major companies.
Qatar offers refuge to its leader, Ismail Haniyeh, who also might be the brain behind the attacks on Israel.
These terrorists and political leaders are welcomed on Qatari soil, from where they can launch calls for jihad, calling on Muslims to give their lives for the massacre of Jews.
Alexandre Delval is an author and expert on radical Islamist terrorism. He says, despite what he read in the mainstream media, it's not Iran, but Qatar that's the Hamas's primary sponsor.
Qatar, on an official basis alone, gives 22 to 23 million euros every month to pay the 20 to 30,000, some say 10 to 40,000 Hamas officials who run the Gaza Strip. That's official funding. There's probably a lot more unofficial aid to Hamas, some say 10 times more than what is official.
Qatar's leaders have showed opposition to the Abraham Accords, a US-sponsored peace agreement which normalized relations between Israel and some Arab states, arguing it couldn't contribute to peace. While Qatar continues its support for Hamas, it also intends to play a mediator role. Qatar is now involved in talks with Hamas and Israeli officials over a possible swap between Israeli women and children seized by the terror group and held in Gaza in exchange for the release of Palestinian women and children. Delval says he met with a Qatari embassy official in Paris and asked him why the country provided support to Hamas.
The Qatari ambassador told me it's not to support their fight. It's about Bedouin hospitality, which then allows us to have contacts with everyone and which then allows us to negotiate the release of the hostages. You should be happy that we are involved. The fact that we have close ties with these radical Islamists means that we can help you when some of them go too far, because we are their friends.
Delval says the country's leaders are engaged in a double game with the West.
A country that has been sponsoring most of the Islamist movements for years, while saying that it will help us free the hostages. I don't want to be cartoonish here, but it reminds me of the mafia. They come to protect you. If you give them a ransom, they will protect you from themselves.
David Vives, NTD News, Paris.